talk is not getting the talk. Next, with sex education in schools, is Kate Wilson.
All right, good evening. All right, so sexuality is all around us, and it has been since the beginning of mankind and procreation. Whether that be in a song, a movie, a passing glance, a gentle nudge, a provocative outfit, or even a flirty text. And tonight, I'm going to give you many examples of this statement and how prevalent it is, and how ridiculous it is that it's a subject that most adults won't talk about. And how insane it is that we don't have any sort of a comprehensive ethics-based sexual education curriculum. So firstly, I wanted to start out with a personal anecdote. So my sister is a sophomore at Duke University, and the first and only ever sexual education course she received was this one awkward day in 8th grade where they split the class up into boys and girls. Now for the girls, they went into a classroom and they were shown slide after slide after slide, STD, STI, and all these really gross pictures that nobody wants to see. And then after that, they proceeded to see this flowery cartoon that you had to find the hidden meaning in it. And basically it was just sex written in bold across the page. And now, despite my mom having forced me and my sister to watch extensive documentaries during our forced family fun night evenings, she was simply unprepared for what she what she witnessed in college. She witnessed things from a whole range of sexual behaviors, from things that are really serious to things that are less so. So things like being sexed out or sextiled. She heard of people not being able to go back into their rooms because the roommate was having intercourse, and for privacy reasons, you're obviously not going to go back in there and just sit on the bed and be like, hey. So you don't go back into your room. Or things like being blackout drunk, or people waking up the next day saying they had been roofied and not remembering what happened. There was even a young girl who was just the floor beneath her, and she was completely blackout drunk, and someone saw her being dragged into the boys' freshman football team dorm room. And who knows what would have happened to her if someone hadn't stood up and said, whoa, something's wrong, Joel needs to get in there and do something. So now, in her first week is orientation week, and on her very first day of orientation week, her very first day of college, she was shown this video. It's a video about consent, and it's a video that I'm going to show you guys now. So just picture these class of 8th grade, and then this class.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they go, oh my gosh, I would love a cup of tea. Thank you. Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, hey, would you like a cup of tea? And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea, or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea. Not all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, yes please, that's kind of you. And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time that it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind. And you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea. And they can't answer the question, do you want tea? Because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea. And they said yes. But in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down. Make sure the unconscious person is safe. And this is the important part again. Don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they're safe, because unconscious people If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it going, but you wanted tea last week. Or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, but you wanted tea last night. But you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you're able to understand when people don't want tea. Then how hard is it to understand it when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea.
All right, so there's clearly a very large difference between this 8th grade disease class and that video. And at some point, I think we can all agree that there should have been something in between there. Just, something to give some kind of a context to all these strange, videos that I've shown you. And that thing should have been an ethics-based comprehensive sexual education course. So, as I said, wrong way, goodness. Sexuality is all around us, including in the songs we listen to. We hear songs from a variety of different places, whether that's a friend's phone, the radio, commercials, the list goes on and on. Now, we even have school dances, and there's music there, and oftentimes our school dances are incredibly inappropriate. We even have to have our school dances canceled sometimes because of inappropriate dancing. And I've heard stories from around the district, not just South, stories of cleanup crews finding used condoms on the dance floor, or girls not wearing underwear at the cotillion, or people having intercourse under the tables at dances. Now, even nowadays, there are famous people who are rewarded for these inappropriate types of behavior. And what does that teach young kids nowadays? What does that tell them? So, whether parents want their children to be exposed to these kinds of situations or not, they will be. I mean, yesterday I was at Nordstrom with my mom trying to pick out a color of blush. And the esthetician, she went over and she went to find a blush that would match my skin tone. And the one that she came back with, there was 2 different ones she came back with. One of them was named Orgasm, and the other one was named Deep Throat. Now, obviously, my mom did not intend for me to be in that sort of a situation, but I was. And you get thrown into it, and you gotta roll with it, right? So, these are 5 popular movies from 2015, all of which are considered comedies, but all of which also have very sexual content. And I'm sure most of you have seen at least one of the movies on the screen. I know I've seen about 4, and I think they're funny too. But whether we want this to be the reality or not, it is the reality that sexuality is unavoidably all around us. But we're also used to it that we hardly even notice it's there anymore. We've grown numb to it, and something that no one will talk about. So no matter how much parents want to shelter their children from these types of situations, it's impossible. We need the tools to be successful and to make informed decisions, and what could do that for us is a comprehensive sexual education course. Now, here are some shocking statistics I found through my research, beginning with the average age of first intercourse in the United States being 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds. These are high schoolers. These are sophomores, juniors, and seniors. This is high school is us now, and this is just an average, which means there's people even younger than that who are already having intercourse. I had a friend in 8th grade who was already having intercourse. And I learned that 2/3 of college students have been in a friends with benefits relationship at some point in their college career. And they cited that the lack of commitment was the biggest advantage to this sort of a relationship. And infuriatingly, I found that of the 50 United States, only 22 of them require any sort of a sexual education program. And of those 22, 3 of them don't require that the information be accurate or factual. Which means that there's 3 states teaching, I don't know. Who knows what they're teaching? If the information doesn't have to be factual or technically accurate, then they can say whatever they want, right? And in the 633 years of public education, not once has the need for a sexual education program come up. Yet, intercourse and relationships have been around since the beginning of mankind and procreation. Now, not informing us of these statistics, it hurts us. It hurts us and it leaves us vulnerable to the fact that 16% of women in college are raped. Let me say that again. chance of learning, basically, because they have to see the person who sexually assaulted them around on campus, or wink at them, or be forced to sit next to them in a class. It is mentally traumatic, and because of this, they don't have the same opportunity to learn as other students do. So somebody needs to tell us how the choices we have to protect ourselves and how to protect ourselves. And how do you do that? We do that through a comprehensive sexual education curricula. Now, a comprehensive ethics-based sex ed curricula is not just the how-tos and the STDs and the STIs about having a physical relationship with someone. It's about what is a loving, respectful relationship. It's what's a friendship versus what's a relationship. It talks about what is domestic violence and how you prevent it. And it talks about the buddy system, and it talks about the importance of taking your drink with you. If you gotta go to the bathroom or somewhere, you always have your drink with you. You don't leave yourself vulnerable to the opportunity of someone putting something in your drink. And unfortunately, it also recognizes that abstinence until marriage in this day and age is unlikely, with the first average age of intercourse in the United States being 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds, which is not the same age of people getting married for the first time in the United States. It's unlikely. And the biggest argument against a case like, a curriculum like this is from parents, and they say that it will encourage their children to engage in risky behavior or intercourse at younger ages. And this is simply ridiculous. Now, as pointed out in this cartoon, on the left is a sexual education teacher, and on the right is a driver's ed teacher. Now, the sex ed teacher says, I can't tell you about safe sex because it might encourage you to become promiscuous. While the driver's ed teacher says, I can't tell you what airbags do because that information will make you think it's okay to start crashing into things. Now, clearly, this is ridiculous and illogical. Study after study after study that I've found states that those who have not been educated are more likely than those who have not been educated to engage in intercourse at a younger age. So those who have not been educated are more likely to engage in this type of behavior. And so a course like this can only help students. It only can help them make informed decisions and be able to protect themselves and be aware of what is out there. Now, knowledge is power. And if knowledge is power in every other aspect, in every other subject of my life, then why wouldn't knowledge be power here? Humans have a commonality that centers around ethics and respect. And keeping us safe supersedes all arguments. Now, unfortunately, most of the adults in our life are naive to the things students experience daily. Not daily, but, and to this choice of topic. So this change needs to come from us. It needs to come from this community, and it needs to come through awareness and education. And this type of a thing is not just to help yourself, but it's also to help your peers. It's so that you're not just a bystander, but you're a bystander who's able to make decisions, informed decisions, and protect others. Now, furthermore, in high school, AP courses are stressed by our teachers, our counselors, administrators, peers, on and on, as a good way for you to prepare yourself for the rigor of college. And it helps you raise your GPA, and you can get college credit for it if you do well in your AP exams. And I totally agree with all of that. But what it doesn't, however, take calculus, for example. How many of you plan on using calculus in your future careers? Paper, pencil, longhand, all of calculus, solving it out. I'm sure some of you have taken the class, but I doubt that many of you plan on using it in your future career. It's just to get that AP credit, right? In fact, my dad showed me a little while ago an article talking about how calculus is being ruled out in school districts. And it's being replaced with big database math because calculus is not essential for the common knowledge for the general broad population. However, I can guarantee that 100% of the people in this room will experience some sort of sexual situation at some point in your life, but we don't even have a class to cover that sort of a thing. High school prepares us for only part of college, and that's the academic part. And people cannot continue to ignore how we treat ourselves and our bodies and others is important for our future success. Relationships are what allow us to succeed in our future careers that our academia allowed us to achieve. So an ethics-based sexual education curricula must be required in schools. It is essential to students' future empower, and my presentation is not meant to be a scare tactic or make you afraid to go to college or any of the statistics I showed you. It's meant to allow you to make informed choices and use the tools to keep yourself safe and keep others safe. And not telling this information, keeping this information from students is an insult to our intellect, and it leaves us vulnerable to so much.